All right, welcome to Recently Interesting. Today we are talking about TradWives. So...
TradWives?
TradWives, as in like traditional wives.
Oh, trad? Like with a... Is that T-R-A-D?
Yes, you
or
know that.
C-H-A-D?
You know that it is T-R-A-D.
I literally thought you'd been saying Chad wives.
No, you don't, because you texted,
time.
when I texted it to you, you texted me back and said Chad wives. And
That's what I thought
it.
you meant.
Trad?
That's what
Wait,
I thought.
are you joking?
I'm not even joking.
Because you, I said
I
trad wives, and
you
you corrected me saying Chad wives.
Right. I thought you spelled it wrong.
So you thought that Chad wives was like a new phenomenon?
That's what I thought you've been telling me this entire time.
What would a Chad wife be?
Well, like, you know when a guy
like married
just,
the football player?
Yeah, when a guy's just being a Chad, and you're like, oh gosh. And
That's
just
so
like
funny.
the girl version of a Chad.
No, it is not Chad. It is trad, as in traditional.
Oh.
As in like a traditional wife.
Well, I think Chad wife would work based on what you told. Anyway.
Well, that's the argument, right? That's really the question. So, trad wives is, that term is recent. And it's basically this new phenomenon where after all these years and years of, you had most women living a traditional life, and then it became very heavy on like, women need to be CEOs, join the workforce, And then now, on the internet, this little window opened up that's now getting larger and larger of women showcasing their traditional wife life. So influencers, you could call it, whether that be Instagram, YouTube, showing a full spectrum of kind of like people who are just talking about cooking and cleaning and taking care of their kids, all the way to kind of really extreme, we are farming our own food and homeschooling our kids and homesteading, very heavy, a bunch of children. So it seems like there was a small wave, and now more and more people who are kind of adding their voice to this genre, which now has been coined trad wives. And people are having all different kinds of reactions to it. Some people feel that it's great to see what traditional wives do, and it's helpful for other wives to kind of learn from each other. We live in a society nowadays where there's not so much of a sense of community in person, it feels like, but online is where people often find a sense of community. And so especially for moms who are at home with kids all day and kind of looking for other adults who can relate to them, it's a great way for them to kind of feel like they have someone who they can relate to. On the other end of things, you have people who are basically saying that this is like reinforcing the patriarchy and these women are oppressed, and it's like not good to be a traditional wife, or that it is good to be a traditional wife, but these women aren't doing it right because some of them are actually earning money as influencers, and that's not traditional, or that they're setting unrealistic expectations, and specifically if they're maybe doing a lot of homesteading type of behaviors. So first, what I wanted to tell you a story about is a specific woman who's been catching a bunch of heat. And then you can kind of give me a reaction to that. And then I have some questions that are more about just TradWives in general, the movement.
The Chads.
So this woman is called Ballerina Farms. That's her YouTube channel name. Not her birth given name. But
never know these days.
Yeah. So she is somebody who she used to be a ballerina. She was trained at Juilliard. She was a professional ballerina, and her husband got married. They decided that they wanted to do this whole homesteading thing. They ended up, I think they were started off in New York, I guess, because Juilliard. Then they moved to Utah, bought a bunch of land. They now farm that land, and they have 8 children. She just had her 8th baby. And when she was 12 days postpartum, she competed in not Miss America, as I believe, but a pageant called Miss American, which is supposedly different. But anyways, she won Miss American. And some people really enjoy her content. Like I said, they think that she poses this really aspirational lifestyle of being a mom, taking care of her kids, homeschooling her kids, doing all this farming, cooking at home, and then also having her kind of hobbies and interests, not putting those to the side, but going and competing. And one of the questions that she was asked in the pageant was something like, when do you feel most powerful as a woman, or something along those lines? And her answer was that she felt the most powerful as a woman giving birth. And some people are saying
she said that in the pageant.
Yeah, like she felt like she was the most powerful. That was one of her answers. Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's a question portion.
Yeah.
Also, postpartum, she went from, being pregnant to, being, skin tight, dress ready.
Supermodel ready,
in 12 days, yeah. So, she was getting heavily critiqued because people were saying, she is 12 days postpartum and we don't need to be normalizing this. It's unrealistic. And really, what she should be doing is spending time with her baby that she just had, which maybe people did not know this, but her baby actually was at the pageant with her and with family members, and the only time that she wasn't physically with her baby was when she was on stage. Mm-hmm. And also, moms are allowed to have a couple hours to themselves, I would think, even if they just had a baby. Maybe they're still allowed to have some autonomy, but these people did not feel that way. They felt like she should be with her baby in bed, and she should not be making other women feel bad that when they're 12 days postpartum, they're not competing in pageants and doing all this kind of crap, but it's fine if you just want to lay in bed. And so people were really upset that she was setting this. The word that I often heard thrown around about it was normalizing her behavior. Normalizing a certain standard that should not be expected of all women or any woman.
Yeah.
So, you can give me your thoughts on that now, or I could get into the questions that I have, whatever you prefer.
I think the internet's a big place. And one thing I appreciate, especially about YouTube, is there's just so many things on YouTube, so much you can learn, so many people you can listen to. Mm-hmm. And, for instance, right? I watched YouTube the other day to make sure that I was jumping a car correctly, right?
You jumped a car the other day?
Well, maybe it was a month or so ago, but like
Whose
to make
car?
mine, to make sure that the cables were.
Oh, when your battery died.
Yeah, to make sure the cables were on right, because it was like sparking a lot. Turns out I was doing it right, but it was just like, it just sparks, I guess. But so I mean, you know, on one spectrum you can do that, but then on the whole other side, like I remember talking to this guy who was like a Benihana chef, and I'm like, dude, where'd you learn how to do all this stuff? And he's like, YouTube, you know.
That's funny. Yeah.
And so, like, there's just a huge range of just things you can listen to, learn. And so I feel like it's dumb when people are like, oh, like, this is getting normalized. When it's like, I mean, sure. Like, to some people who are, like, on that level, yeah, it's normal, you know? Like, there's some people who run 100-mile races. And there's YouTube videos that talk about these people who run 100-mile races. Mm-hmm. There's some people who could barely run 1 mile, you know? Or, like, there's people who just, like, maybe they're not runners, but they're, like, they, like, lift a lot of weight, you know? And so, to them, it would be like, you're making running normalized. And it's like, well, you're making, like, lifting really heavy things, like, pulling semi-trucks normalized. It's like,
if
everyone's Musk, at a different level. You know?
Elon Musk started a YouTube channel and somebody's like, you should not be normalizing creating so many businesses because not everybody can be expected to create all these businesses.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, everyone's at their own level, and I feel like to some extent, everyone knows where they're at personally, right? And if you don't, I feel like it's pretty easy.
Accept it though.
It's pretty easy to figure out where you're at. But yes, I feel like that is the key there. I feel like a lot of people wish they were at a different level.
Yeah.
When they're not. And we live in such a world of now, you know, that they expect to just be there. And then, you know, then they're just digesting this content where people are at this level so high above them, you know, in their eyes, right? And all they want to do is, like, knock those people and just try to get them down to their level. And it's just like, you know, everything's a work in progress. If you want to be at that level, then you can. Mm-hmm. It's going to take work, but you can. And maybe you can't be at that level. And if you can't, just accept that and be who you are, you know? And so it's just like, I don't know, I feel like there's just a lot of like self-acceptance that people have to sort of do. I heard this one saying, I think it goes like, comparison is the thief of joy. Mm-hmm. And I heard that, and I feel like it's really true, where it's like, be happy with the progress that you're making personally, and don't so often compare yourself to all these people, because it's just going to take away like all the personal victories that you're having in your everyday life. Not to say that you shouldn't look at people and have goals and whatever, but don't let those people who are in these positions of perhaps something you're aspiring to take away from your personal victories. And so, I don't know, to give you the long answer, I think it's dumb that people are hating on it, because it's like, whatever. Like, I mean, you said this lady was a ballerina, so she's probably knows how to get fit quick, or how to be fit.
And she was actually, because she vlogs,
yeah,
and even during her last month of pregnancy, she was still working out every day, doing stretches every single day, and this is her 8th kid that is like fully natural home birth, you know, give birth to the baby in the bathtub type of thing. So people were saying, well, it's probably easier for her body to bounce back because her body knows what's going on and is very quick to...
Yeah. One, her body knows what's going on. Two, so does she, you know?
She's been working out. She's been...
Yeah, like maybe after her first kid she did the same thing, but it's like, especially after her 8th, like, yeah, you know, I feel like she would know she would know what she can expect from herself after giving birth, because she's done it 8 times, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you get in your car, you drive to work, maybe for the first time, and you're late because you don't know what the flow of traffic is going to be like. But by the 8th time you're driving to the office, it's like, you know what it's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a dumb example, but you get what I'm saying. Like, she knew her body.
Yeah.
She knew what she was capable of. She obviously was very capable of doing what she did. She won her pageant or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I personally don't have any issue with some lady doing something she wanted to do. I think it's dumb that people are hating on it, because it's like, I don't know. So like, whatever. Just let them do what they want. They're not hurting anyone. Let them do what they want.
I also think it's interesting that I know a lot of moms, and something that I've noticed amongst stay-at-home moms in particular is that they often have a difficult time doing something that is just for themselves. Like, in their head, if they're doing something, it needs to be for their family, like for their husband or for their kids or for the family as a whole. And it's really difficult for a lot of moms to do something, especially if it like involves a financial investment that is just for them. And maybe that's because they're not going out and earning money themselves. So like for guys, because you earn money every day, it feels easier to spend money on something that's just for yourself. But as a woman who's not earning money, to spend money on something that's just for yourself almost kind of feels like maybe you should just do something as a family instead. Or like, a lot of women are very hesitant to do things for their own enjoyment. And so for this woman...
Well, stay-at-home moms, not all women, but yeah.
Yes. Women who are full-time moms.
Yeah.
And so for this woman, in my head, to be feeling like, you know what? Maybe doing this Miss American pageant, it's for me. It's something that I like to do. It gives me something to work towards. I enjoy it. It helps me progress. I want to do it. I'm going to do it. For her then to get torn down by other women is like, and those women consider themselves to be very feminist for women, you know. It just seems like a slap in the face that it's not just that they want women to, you know, be able to make their own choices. They want those women to make the choices that they want them to make. And I kind of felt like, wow, go her for being able to do that and being successful at that. And the other thing is, all these women in the comments who are saying that we need to normalize just being in bed for 2 weeks postpartum and don't even make me get out of bed. It's like, if that's what you want to do, nobody's saying that you can't do that. Nobody's saying that they would look down on you for doing that. Mm-hmm. You should feel confident in your own choices that you make. And if you're postpartum and you need to just stay in bed, every pregnancy is different. Every delivery is different. If you need to be in bed for 2 weeks straight postpartum, take care of yourself, you know, do it. If she doesn't need to, then let her enjoy her life.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't enjoy your life if I'm not capable of what you're capable of.
If I'm capable of doing more than what you're capable of.
If I can't do what you can do, then you need to stop. Because you're going to make me feel bad about myself, and I'm not supposed to feel bad about myself. You know? I noticed the same thing. I saw a video that was talking about girls who have this like what I do in a day routine, and it's like, first I wake up at 5 a.m. and then I drink a smoothie, and then I write in my gratitude journal, and I don't touch my phone until noon, but I like to just be with my thoughts and very contemplative, and I work out, and I do, and people are like, we're reacting to that saying, this is totally unrealistic, and these girls can only do this big full skincare routine every single morning because they don't work a 9 to 5, and if you work a 9 to 5, you'll never be able to do this, and like what they're showing is totally unrealistic, and basically this idea that they're just trying to make you feel bad about yourself. Mm-hmm. And I hesitate to comment on anything because I think it's kind of pointless, but I did actually comment on this one video saying, because the title of the video was that it was a scam. And I said, because she's saying this is unrealistic, and I said, just because it's unrealistic for you doesn't mean that it's unrealistic for them. Like, what's realistic for different people is different standards.
Yeah.
It's not a scam. Maybe it's not what they do every day. Could be that they're showing their highlight, of a day.
Their goal day, yeah.
Yeah, but also, it makes me feel like there's this, like, cultural vibe going around that you should not ever be exposed to content, whether that be pictures or videos, that make you feel bad. If it makes you feel bad about yourself,
that's all of social media.
It should go away.
That's literally all of social media. Like Instagram, that's Instagram.
Well, it reminded me of like the angels, like with Victoria's Secret, that they said, get rid of the angels because we want to see. Well, they didn't actually replace the fashion show at first, but they just said, instead of the angels, we want, Victoria's Secret thought that their customers wanted to see more realistic women, And then now they're bringing the angels back because it turned out that pandering to like a more realistic body standard actually did not make their sales go up whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with like on their website now they'll show, instead of showing like super idealized like supermodel looking girls on their website where you're actually shopping, instead of that they'll show normal looking girls, and if the girl has stretch marks you can see that she has stretch marks, whatever, And I do think that is a step in the right direction, because that's when people are actually trying to see what these bras or underwear look like on a normal person, because this is a normal person going shopping. But a fashion show, is a fashion show not supposed to be unrealistic? Isn't it supposed to be like they're supermodels. They're like the elite. And they're modeling, the things that they're modeling in these fashion shows are for fashion purposes rather than for purposes of you buying it. Because it's not like, they're wearing these massive wings, right?
Yeah.
You can't go on their website and buy that.
Yeah.
They're not trying to show you something realistic.
You're not going to work wearing those giant wings. Well.
I don't even think you're hanging out in your bedroom wearing those kinds of wings, Yeah. Or at least if you did decide that you wanted to don some Victoria's Secret wings in your personal life, you'd have to purchase them elsewhere because Victoria's Secret's not going to sell them to you. It's not available for purchase.
I mean, it probably is available for purchase, but it's probably extremely expensive.
Not on their website, though. If you go on VictoriaSecret.com, you can't buy that.
But it's probably like, some like backstage, like this
Yeah, if you were
supermodel wore...
Zendaya, LaRoche would go and get them for you if you were interested.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
anyway.
Zendaya could get her hands on the wings if she wanted them, I'm sure.
Why Zendaya?
Zendaya, her... What's the guy's... Well, his name's LaRoche, but he's,
Why not, like... I don't know.
Fashion designer.
One of
He's
the people
just
from
very
Friends.
well. He's just very well known for being able to get whatever she wants.
Oh, interesting.
In the fashion design. That's why when she went and she was at the Dune 2 premiere and she was wearing that robot armor, yeah, like the armor. That was actually from the 90s. That piece, and they're like. That's why it didn't fit her super well. Although, in her perspective, it did fit her well, even though didn't fit her in the boobs and butt. She didn't fill it out at all. But it turns out that the reason she was even able to wear it, so she told him that she wanted to. He said, okay, let me go and talk to them. They worked it out. They said, well, we'll let you try it on, but we can't make any adjustments to it due to the nature of it. And so... in order for you to be able to wear it, all the hinges have to like hit you in the right spot so that she could actually move her elbow, move her knees. Because if she's too tall, and she is very tall, the model must have been very tall too, because if the knee joint doesn't hit, she can't walk in it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say Zendaya. Like, I feel like LaRoche would get her anything that she wants. Or maybe whoever does it for Kim Kardashian. I'm not sure who it is, but I mean, Kim Kardashian was able to get her hands on Marilyn Monroe's dress. I'm sure if she wanted some angel wings, she'd find a way. Yeah. But, point being, the fashion show, in my opinion, never needed to be realistic for the average woman. And if the average woman is looking at, say, an angel, or Ballerina Farms, for example, and instead of looking at them and saying, wow, what you're doing is incredible, it's aspirational, good for you, that's awesome, but instead is saying, wow, she looks like that, I don't look like that, it's not fair that I don't look like that, what did she do that I didn't do, like, just internalizing it, making it about themselves, making themselves feel like crap, and then getting mad at this other person for how they responded. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well,
in my opinion.
Congratulations to this Ballerina Farms girl. I mean, high praise. She just got compared to a Victoria's Secret angel by you, so...
Well,
she must be doing very well for
I would say she's even more impressive than an angel, to be honest, because not only does she have the same physique as an angel, but all an angel has to do is walk up and down in lingerie. She has this physique and homeschools 8 children, one of which is an infant that she has to nurse and all that kind of stuff, and runs a farm with her husband, and is a YouTuber. So I think she's actually got a little bit more going on than what's required for an angel.
I have no idea what's required for an angel.
Basically, just be super hot. But they get on very strict dietary. They have very strict dietary restrictions and workout routines and stuff like that because the physique has to be perfect.
Okay.
But yeah, so...
You said you had questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do have questions that go back to the more of the TradWife
right.
in general. Not specifically Ballerina Farms, but just the whole idea. So my first question would be, do you feel like TradWives are supporting the patriarchy? That's been a huge critique of the movement.
Traditional wives supporting the patriarchy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a traditional wife, if that is a buzzword, and patriarchy definitely is. But I don't really have any issues with either of them. I know people do, but it's like, again, to each their own. If no one's dying, no one's getting hurt, whatever.
That's my question.
Well, like, I guess my question is, what is the patriarchy? Like,
okay,
what
so
is...
you tell me, what do you think?
The patriarchy would be, like, sort of like a nuclear family, in my mind, where it's
Really?
like, the guy goes to work, the mom, you know, the one that stays at home, and, like, I feel like that's the patriarchy to me. Like, I don't know. So if my definition is what we're going with, then yes, I think traditional wives support the patriarchy. Do you have another definition?
The definition that I'm finding on Google is a system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is head of the family and descent is traced through the male line. I feel like, and then it also says a system a system of society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it. A society or community organized on patriarchal lines. I feel like what is often in society referred to as the patriarchy is this idea that men run everything and women are getting shafted.
Very, like, subservient women, like, in this patriarchy. Is that what we're getting to?
Well, I mean, patriarch means that is inherently a male term, because if it was female, it would be matriarch. So patriarchy means men are in charge.
I mean,
whether that be the family or the government.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe to some extent this patriarchy exists, probably in America, but not as strongly as I think people think. Because I don't know, at least the ladies in my life that I know, if a guy was to throw his weight around and be in charge, most of them would just be like, okay, right on, sure. But it wouldn't, like, it would be of no consequence. It would be like, all right, yeah, they can pretend that they're in charge, but we're still going to do what we're going to do, you know? So it's like,
yeah.
I don't think the patriarchy, in my opinion, exists as strongly as the public would make you believe, at least in America. I think there's probably other countries outside of America where this sort of male-dominated society is very prominent. And I would also say there's probably communities, probably smaller communities throughout the United States where this male-driven society exists as well. But, like, you know, you go to New York, LA, Chicago, like any of these giant metropolises. These giant cities, you know, you go to these places and I feel like it...
Metropolitan areas.
Metropolitan, that's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, you go to these big places and, like, you're just not going to find it. And the majority of people live there. And so I would say, in the vast majority, I would say the patriarchy doesn't exist. In the minority, yeah, I think it's there. Do I think traditional wives support the patriarchy? To some extent, sure. I think being traditional wife means to stay at home and raise kids, you know?
Uh-huh.
And so to the extent that it allows the father figure or husband to be the one making the money, if you want to call that patriarchy, then yeah, it supports that. But does that mean that the guy then has the sole power to spend the money however he sees fit? I mean, I guess that depends on the marriage. So yeah, I think to the extent that the guy is going to take care of the financial burden of bringing home money, I feel like that's the furthest extent that it supports this patriarchy. But it doesn't mean that, I don't think it inherently means that it's supporting any sort of dominating aspect. Like I feel like a woman could be a traditional wife and still have a say in the finances of the house, still have a say in the decisions made around the house. I mean, largely if the husband's gone working, they are making 100% of the decisions around the house. So it's like, so what is the patriarchy then? Like, you know,
well, that's
non-existent.
Kind of interesting. Like in that definition that I read, it said there seemed kind of a distinction of like there's a patriarchy in the government and in the household, and I would say I do believe that we have a patriarchal government, but I don't believe that we have a patriarchal household, or I don't believe that that is like the majority nowadays.
Didn't a lady just run for president like a couple of years ago?
And lost.
Lost, but still ran. I feel like if it was a patriarchal government, she never would have even run. Like she would have been like.
I disagree.
She wouldn't have been
I think the fact that
she would have been running on her own ticket. She wouldn't have been like supported by a government party.
And also the woman who ran for the government was the wife of a former president. I think that I disagree.
Irrelevant. She's still a woman. Like she's still
yeah, but I'm saying that
like the governor.
I'm saying that maybe she had a bit of a leg up than a normal woman would have by virtue of her husband already. Like she was already the first lady.
Okay, the governor of Oregon is a woman. The governor of Arizona is a woman.
Yeah.
The CEO, I don't know if this is true, but there used to the CEO of eBay or the owner, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that was a woman. Like
I think
so it's like,
if you look at our government, it seems to me that it's very clear that
like the mayor of San Francisco is a woman, I think.
But you're talking about small. You're not, just because there's a few does not mean that a few does not make a majority. Do you think that there's 50% women representation in, if you were to say, okay, I'm going to take all governing structures in the U.S., whether that be president, senate, governors, mayors, any kind of governing role, you think that there's a 50-50 split of women versus men in the...
It doesn't... That's not relevant, because
I'm just saying that there's majority men who are running stuff.
Sure, there could be a majority.
Which makes it a patriarchy.
But it doesn't make it a patriarchy. Is like, in my mind, a dictatorship. So it's like...
That's not what the definition says, though.
The definition, it says male-led. Male-dominating. And so it's like, okay, that would mean it would be either 100% male-led.
A system of society or government in which the father, or you could just say men, is a system of society or government in which the father is the head of the family. And the head of, if it's the government, the head of the country. The head of the country in our country's history has exclusively been men.
Okay.
And I would say, even if you were going to say...
The head of the state of Oregon is a woman. So in the country of America, it's a patriarchy. But in the state of Oregon, it's a matriarchy. In the state of Arizona... That sounds
about right, actually, if you think about what Oregon is like.
In the state of Arizona, it's a matriarchy.
I think that it...
In my opinion...
the leader of our country is a man, and always has been.
In my opinion, the fact that there are any women at all, let's say it was 99% male, but there was 1% female leaders, in my opinion, it's no longer a patriarchy. Because, like, it's not 100%, And so it's like, sure, it's not 50-50, but what is it? 60-40? 70-30?
I don't think it's 60-40. I doubt that it's even 70-30. But my point...
If there's 20% of women...
Okay, you said what you thought it was. I'm saying what I think it is. I think that our government is set up in a patriarchal way. I would even say that business is pretty patriarchal. As a generalization, I'm not saying every single business in the U.S., as a generalization, I think that you will find more businesses in the U.S. where men are running things, and if women have a role at all, it's lower down on the totem pole.
Sure.
However, I don't believe that families in general are patriarchal at this point in society. Because I feel like even these women, these TradWives, in my opinion, what they're showcasing is basically that as a woman, they're pulling their weight and more in the family. And so whether that be cooking or cleaning or taking care of kids, if their husband is going out and he's going to work and he's earning money every day, that's him pulling his weight. And what she's doing at home, that's her pulling her weight. And they're both working hard. And so it's not like one person is running the show when it comes to the family. That's both parents dividing and conquering together. In my opinion,
Yeah.
So I don't look at that structure. Even if a man is bringing in the money exclusively, I wouldn't look at that as saying, like, okay, well then he's in charge, because...
You know that this stance completely undermines your opinion on government, right?
I don't agree.
Because you just... So you're saying that a man's pulling his weight by doing one thing, a woman's pulling her weight by doing another thing. Some people might value the man going to work and earning money as greater than...
More important raising kids.
Than raising kids, staying at home, cleaning the house. And so you understand that undermines your opinion of businesses that have a male CEO but female employees. Because you could say that, sure, there's a male CEO who's going off maybe getting work for the business, but then you have all the employees as female actually getting the work done. So they're pulling their weight and he's pulling his weight.
I don't agree that the contributions that a CEO makes to a company and the contributions that an entry-level employee make are of equal value. I think if
what I'm saying is there's one CEO
listen.
10 entry-level people.
If an entry-level employee, I'm just talking one for one person for one person, because you don't know how many employees they have, or if they have employees, how many are female versus how many are male. Maybe they do have 10 women and maybe they have 90 men. But regardless, you're just only talking about one CEO. So just talk about one employee. If a one entry-level employee quit tomorrow, whether they be male or female, it's not going to have a massive effect on the company. If the CEO quits tomorrow, whether he be male or female, that is going to be a huge adjustment for the entire company. Everyone's going to be scrambling to try to figure out what they're going to do now that this person is gone. So
you're
value
saying in a household there's 2 CEOs.
in the yeah, I guess that would be a way to say.
Gotcha.
It's 2 people who are running the company, if you consider the company the family, rather than it being somebody's the boss and somebody is doing what the boss says.
Gotcha.
Because I don't even look at being a traditional wife as doing what the boss says.
Okay.
I think that.
So I'm gonna throw something out there, and you're not gonna like this question.
Uh-huh.
But so let's take your example, right? Woman staying at home, taking care of the kids and the house, and a man going to work and making the money.
Okay.
If the woman in that scenario died instantly,
Yeah.
not to say it wouldn't be a struggle, but what would be more hard? What would be the harder adjustment for the man to die and the woman to now have to go find work to support the household and the kids, or for the woman to die and the man to find a nanny?
I think that
What would be more difficult?
I think that they would be equally difficult. Because, like, let's say that...
Equally difficult.
Because here's the thing.
Difficult.
Imagine that so if the husband dies, yes, now the wife's going to have to figure out an alternate way of making money. However, she's also going to get an insurance check.
Maybe.
Okay, if her man is of value, she'll be getting an insurance check. That's why men are supposed to have life insurance and stuff like this, for the purpose of, should something horrible happen to you, you better be making sure that your family's going to be taken care of after you're gone. Like, a man takes care of those kinds of things.
Yeah, so I guess it's still the man taking care of things even though he's dead.
She'd be getting a check.
Yeah.
And she would work something out, right?
Husband working his ghost shift.
She would probably rely on the support of other family members, such as her parents or his parents, until she could figure it out. If the wife dies, the man's not going to have a shift financially, right? But hiring a nanny, I don't think that you could say that a nanny is equal to a mom in terms of the value that they're bringing to the table. Because you have to think now, however many children you have that this wife has been taking care of the entire time, those children are emotionally bonded to that woman, and she's been providing whatever level of value, like whatever kind of standards that she's implemented in their life, that she's very invested in seeing that their childhood meets a certain standard and that their growth development meets a certain standard.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just plug some, 20-year-old into that and expect that now these kids are going to be fine because,
Well, I mean,
they've got this other woman who's going to, feed them macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets.
Well, I mean, let's just compare it apples to apples. So if the man passes away and the woman can depend on a hypothetical family members to take care of it, then so can the man. If the wife passes away, he can also not hire a nanny and just depend on
family members?
Yeah, to take care of his kids.
Well, Right, but if a woman, so let's say that if the dad passed away, the family members are going to be helping to take care of that kid until the woman's able to figure something out financially, right? If the mom passes away, the mom's never coming back. So what, is the dad going to be off during that time trying to find a new wife so that he can get a new mom to come in? Like, even then.
What is the wife doing? Or
she's trying to find, she would be finding a job.
So the mom dies in both scenarios. Like,
the mom gets taken away from the children, do you mean?
Essentially.
Right.
So the dad dies and the mom now becomes the dad, in a sense that she's now off at work. And in the other scenario, the mom dies, but the dad's still off at work. And so I would propose that the male role in that situation is probably greater. I told you wouldn't like it, but
I don't really agree though. Like, I don't see why it would make it greater, because that just shows
the position that is essential to be filled. Because if the
you have
man
to earn
died,
money. You have to earn in order to live a life where you have food and shelter. You've got to earn money.
Exactly.
But I think that so then is your argument that as long as I think that if your standard, when you're talking about these are two people who have children, I really, really hope that their standard for their children is a little higher. What they're shooting for is a little higher than just, we are providing you food and shelter. But I would think that maybe,
that is the bare minimum.
Higher goal. Yeah, so like ideally there's a higher goal than just,
so the reason
you are not going to freeze to death and you are not going to starve to death.
So the reason I brought that up, right, is because we talked about, you gave the example of the CEO and the entry-level employee. Uh-huh. And you're like, if the entry-level employee vanished tomorrow, the company would still be like, whatever, we're moving forward. But if the CEO vanished tomorrow, there'd be a scramble.
I think that when you're talking about spouses who have children and one of them's taking full-time care of the children and one of them's earning all the money, if either one of them dies, you're going to have a scramble.
You're going to have a scramble.
It's not going to be easy to replace the work that either one of them are doing. Easy to replace? An entry-level employee is easy to replace.
Yeah.
You just go on Indeed, and filter through one of the 100 applications that everyone has clicked easy apply to that you've been ignoring for the past, however many months.
Yeah.
There's no easy apply for the role of a mom or a dad.
I'm just saying, company structure. Let's say the entry-level employee leaves tomorrow along with the CEO. They both vanish at the same time. The company is going to scramble. Let's say they need to fill both roles. The priority would be to fill the CEO's role. In a family unit, if the father is working...
So do you think that being a stay-at-home mom is equivalent of being an entry-level
I told you
employee?
You wouldn't like this.
I'm asking you if that's what you think.
Because
I don't think that you actually think that.
I don't think that, but I think your logic is flawed. And so I'm trying to
because you think that a man brings more value into the home than a woman does?
No.
Or that more value than... what about in the life of the children?
I'm trying to go all the way back to I don't believe in
finances aside, what do you think is more valuable in a child's life?
I don't believe in a patriarchy. I don't believe it's very existent. And you're like, yeah, it exists today.
But if you think...
I'm trying to I'm trying to trace this logic all the way back to there. Because you're like, it doesn't exist in the family, but it does exist in reality, in the government, in the workforce. And I'm saying, I just don't think it exists anywhere.
Let's say that you've got a 3-month-old baby and mom dies. Do you not think that's going to be a scramble? What do you think is more valuable to a 3-month-old baby? Their mom or their dad?
I mean, you can get formula these days, so...
You can get formula, but I'm just saying, I think that if your 3-month-old baby is on formula, something's gone wrong. Whether they're on formula because your wife died or because your wife is going off to work because for some reason she has to work while she has a 3-month-old baby and so she can't deal with the baby. In my opinion, I would say that something's gone wrong. Because I feel like a 3-month-old baby, in my opinion, has the right to their mother.
Yeah. Like, let's flip it, right? Let's say it's the woman who's working and the man who's
dad is
staying at home with the kids. The same logic applies. If whoever's working dies, that is going to be the priority so that you can continue to provide for everything that you currently are providing for.
But yes, and a man or a woman could work, but I think that when it comes to the children, I think that women are more suited to take care of children than men are. Especially if you think you're talking about a baby. You're talking about a newborn baby. A mother is physically built to be taking care of that baby.
Uh-huh.
A man's not built to do that.
Sure.
A man can't nurse a baby.
We're not talking, these hypotheticals aren't describing ideal situations.
I'm just saying, I feel like the reason, in my opinion, why men go to work is not because women can't go to work, but it's because men can't nurse.
And the reason why there's more men in higher positions of companies or government is because men are supposed to go to work. It's because men have always gone to work. But I don't feel... Because they don't have boobs. I don't feel that I don't feel like the men running... I don't feel like men running business or men running the government is a bad thing. Do I think it's a patriarchal thing? Yes. Because they're in charge, they're running it. But I don't feel like in my opinion, there's not a negative connotation to that. Because you would say men are the patriarchs of business and government. Women are the matriarchs of the home because they're at home all day with the kids. Yeah. The thing is, I just don't like using those. If that's how it's described, that's fine. But I just don't like using those terms because, in my opinion, I feel like the word patriarch or patriarchy implies more than just authority, but like, I would say correct authority, you know? And so to say that the men should be in charge of business. I mean correct authority in terms of they're making the correct choices. You know what I mean? And so I don't know what you mean. Like, I feel like to be a patriarch of a household is not just being in charge, but like making correct, religiously righteous decisions, you know? And so I feel like to call a business or government patriarchal, in my opinion, it just doesn't jive because it's like, they're not, like, you have these corrupt businesses run by men and they're like, oh, it's a patriarchy. And it's just like, sure, it's run by men, but I wouldn't call it a patriarchy because a patriarchy is like, you know, similar to being a father, to being like nurturing, to being caring, to being like helping. And so it's like
So that would be toxic masculinity, as the people say.
Oh gosh.
If someone's running a corrupt company.
I don't think that's the correct term either. I think toxic masculinity is referred to more as like, I actually don't know.
Spreading your legs on the subway too much. You're taking up too much space on the subway.
Yeah, I think
that's
toxic.
What people say, man spreading.
I think toxic masculinity is more like just being a Chad, you know?
Yeah. A Chad what?
Exactly. That's what I thought we were talking about today. Is woman spreading is what I thought we were talking about today. But no, so I don't.
The most appropriate place I feel like for women spreading is in the home.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, so to go all the way back.
Spread all across your couch because nobody else is on it because your husband's at work.
So I wouldn't say that the patriarchy in the vast majority exists in the country of America, because morally I don't think that word fits. I don't think a father figure is very, like, I wouldn't describe many CEOs or government officials as fatherly.
You don't think of Joe Biden as fatherly to you?
No. Elderly, maybe, but not fatherly.
Did you see that video I sent you earlier today
Yeah.
that I texted you?
Anyway, not the point. Off topic. But, so yeah, so...
that's an interesting view on patriarchy.
Yeah, so from that perspective, I don't think it jives, but also it's like, I also think of patriarchy as more of like a dictatorship, and so the fact that there are any women...
A father dictator?
Yeah.
Well, it's...
Like Hitler. No, I'm just kidding.
It's interesting because it's an interesting comment about it being like a father figure based thing, because it has become such a negative term over the years. I don't think that it was always viewed as in such a negative way, but over the more recent years, it's become viewed as like sexism and stuff like that. But maybe that does just show a lack of respect towards men and what they do.
I just think it's just more
All right.
bringing down the family. But yeah, so then
in my opinion, I guess I would say that TradWives do support the patriarchy if you consider business and government patriarchy. But I don't believe that in the home, I don't believe that being a traditional wife while having your husband go out and work means that you are even participating in the patriarchy in a family sense, because I still feel like he can go to work and you can still be equal.
Yeah. So I would agree. I think a traditional wife...
You have a joint bank account and you're allowed to make financial decisions. Like, you and your spouse make financial decisions together in agreement.
So yeah, traditional wives supporting the patriarchy of the home, maybe. Traditional wives supporting the patriarchy of, if we want to call it that, companies and government, 100%. Because they're taking a knee on that one.
Okay, one of my questions we already kind of covered, which was, is it unfair for women to showcase unrealistic expectations as TradWives? We already talked about that a little bit.
It's completely unfair. Women should
people
stop.
Feel like it's very unfair for them to be shown something that is, that, again, people don't want it to be normalized.
Yeah,
I just think that unrealistic expectations, instead of saying unrealistic expectations, maybe people should just say aspirational. Like, it shows you something that you can't do that maybe you want to do. Maybe take notes. I don't know.
The thing is, I wouldn't even say unrealistic is incorrect, because it could 100% be unrealistic for some people, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
yeah,
just because something is unrealistic for you doesn't mean that it is bad. Like,
yeah,
for me, in my present life, I would say it's probably unrealistic for me to expect that I'm going to go to the moon or into space at all, right? But that doesn't mean I'm going to go like crap on astronauts, you know? Like it's fine. Like they can do their thing. I can do like, you know?
Yeah.
It's fine.
And I do feel like if it is something like with TradWives, where maybe I think that a lot of it is stay-at-home moms who are crapping on the TradWives, saying that it's unrealistic. And I feel like if it's... maybe it's showing you what is possible. And if you wish that you could do more, it's an opportunity for you to think, to kind of put yourself in the role of the student instead of the teacher for once, and say, oh, you know what? You're really good at, you know, sourdough bread.
What?
Why don't you teach me how you made
What
it?
are you talking?
Some of it is like people are annoyed because women are like cooking
I know what
a lot.
I know what you're getting at.
And they feel like that's not realistic to be cooking that much for your family and making homemade bread every single day. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you think that the only reason that you're so upset is because maybe you feel like they look better than you do because you're not cooking for your family.
Yeah.
Well, if you're, you know, running through the drive-thru all the time, maybe you should think, okay, well, tell me about how you do your meal planning.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what I was trying to get at earlier when I talked about just the internet's a big place. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. Because I feel like a lot of the times people see, you know, step 100 and they're just like, that's unrealistic. And it's just like, well, maybe it's because you need to start at like video step part 1 and not video part 100, you know?
It kind of demeans the work that people put in. To say it's unrealistic kind of demeans the effort that it took for them to get there.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't just step into this.
Yeah, it's like
8 kids and farming and...
Yeah. It's like I didn't just make one loaf of sourdough bread and it just was perfect every time. It's like, there's a lot of bad bread. There's a lot of hard, disgusting bread.
I have noticed...
Maybe they did it. I don't know. But,
I feel like there's a bit of a culture of like wanting to crap on people who are achieving and to say that they didn't work hard for it. Like I noticed, so with this Ballerina Farms lady, her and her husband started their own farm. And then people found out that her husband, I guess, came from a very affluent family. And so they're like, well, you know what? They're not self-made because he comes from this really affluent family. And that's the only reason that they were able to do this. And I think that they have some family nearby that kind of helps support them sometimes, maybe with their kids and stuff. And it's like, you know what? Even if they did get some financial help from his family or something, they had no farming experience and they bought a farm and they successfully run a farm now.
Yeah.
And they earn really decent money doing it. And so regardless of whatever kind of help that they may have had along the way, that's not an easy feat. And it's almost like people don't want to admit that somebody else worked for something and achieved it because they're not working for that and they're not achieving it.
Yeah. I mean,
but instead of saying, "Oh, I'm not working on that," it's like, "Well, they only achieved it because of this. They got in some like sneaky back door."
Yeah. And the thing is, I've told you this before, but I had a high school teacher a long time ago who said something that I feel like has lived in my brain pretty much rent-free since I heard it. Mm-hmm. But what he told me, because it was like a shop class, and so he'd always have people come in and talk to us about like what they do and like just where they are in their career, obviously after high school and stuff. And one person came in, talked about what he did, and then after he spoke, the teacher got up and was like, guys, I want you to realize that time will pass no matter what. He's like, 2 years will be 2 years. And he's just like, but it's about what you're doing with that time and where you're going. And I'm just like, holy crap. Because he's absolutely right. Like, I can sit here and do nothing for 2 years, or I can work at something slowly, but I can work and get better at something for the next 2 years. And in 2 years, I can either be better at whatever the heck I was working at, or I could have done nothing.
Yeah.
And be exactly where I was 2 years ago. And so I feel like that's something that really hit me. And I always think about the fact that I'm like, you know, I could start doing something, and the only thing it'll take realistically is time. And maybe it takes someone else 6 months, and it might take me 2 years to accomplish. But in the end of the day, all anything takes is time, you know? And then I feel like that, what my old teacher said has just been compounded with other things that I've heard people say, where I had this friend who took this philosophy class, and he's just like, it like really hit him in a lot of ways. And so he was always like blown away by things. But he came and told me something once where he's like, you know something that you've heard a bunch of times that you just don't really process? I'm like, what? And he's like, you can do anything. And I'm just like, okay. And he's just like, I know you've heard that a lot. He's like, but really think about it. He's like, you can do anything. He's like, all it takes is time. He's like, you want to be a doctor? All that really takes is your time. He's like, you just have to decide that that's what you're going to do. And so long as
relentless.
And so long as you're committed to the time frame, that's all it'll take. Mm-hmm. He's like, it's going to take 10 years, give or take, to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. He's like, if you're committed to that time frame, you're okay with that, and you work at it for the next 10 years, in 10 years, you will be a doctor. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right, you know? And so I feel like it's just that, it's just the consistency and the decision and the commitment to just make a change and do something and work at it. And I feel like it just takes time.
I feel like a lot of the people who are commenting disparaging things on these YouTube videos are people who probably, that description of like consistency and discipline probably don't apply to them.
Well, I feel like it's, not to give a huge excuse, but I feel like our generations probably a little prior, and especially the ones coming up now, really ever since the come out of the internet and Google and everything, but we live in like this now generation, you know, like mm-hmm. everything in our lives can like be whatever, be received almost instantly. Like
instant messaging.
Yeah. Instant messaging, Instacart, like okay Google, you know, like hey Siri, like you can just speak into the void and call out Google, yet we're like
not
or Siri.
The most time efficient generation of all, even though we have all the tools.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? So it's mm-hmm. just like
everything's instant.
It's crippling when it's like everything in my life happens instantly except personal progress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like it's hard to like shift the mindset from like I can get everything right now except be a doctor right now, you know? Yeah. And so it's hard to make that shift of like
things taking time
when nothing else takes time.
Yeah, so. that is a really interesting point, because I never really thought about it like that having things be so efficient especially regarding anything that you need with your phone or anything you can use your phone for, then maybe impacts you in the sense that not only do you not have patience, but you don't even need like the discipline to commit yourself to something that's more long term. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about that a lot recently. It's kind of a tangent, but just like with your phone, how because everything is so instant with your phone, you just develop this sense of urgency to your phone of like, if somebody texted me, I need to read that text immediately. Mm-hmm. And even though it's potentially not important in the slightest, and it's like, if I'm going somewhere, I need to have my phone nearby because what if somebody texts me? There's just this like very strong presence of people need to be able to get in touch with me instantly. As soon as somebody wants access to me, they need to have access to me. That there's really no patience for it. And I've tried the past couple days I've been bad about it because I've been talking to my friend on Marco Polo, but last week something I tried to do was be very intentional about keeping my phone during the day for the most part in the kitchen on the counter with the ringer on. So if I do get a phone call, I'll know and I can answer my phone call. If I get a text, maybe I'll know, maybe I won't because I might be in a different room, I might not hear it. But to be like more present with my kids that way, because I'm not getting my attention pulled by like, oh, somebody sent me a message that I need to at least read it right now, if not respond to it right now. And I do feel like that was really nice when I was doing that. And then I also put my phone charger in the kitchen so that way I don't have my phone in bed with me, because I just feel like, isn't that a bit too far, that you are so attached to this thing that even when you're sleeping, you don't want it out of an arm's reach of you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I have the complete opposite opinion. I like super glued a pacifier to my phone case, and so it's always with me.
But I do feel like there's almost something nice about the idea that it's like, I feel comfortable that even if I wait 4 hours to read a text, that's probably going to be fine most of the time. And probably I'll get more value out of being really in that moment with my kids, whether we be playing with toys or reading books or whatever. I'm going to get more value out of that interaction than I will from responding to this text immediately that somebody sent me. And I've heard actually some people say that what they do is they set aside blocks of time that is specifically to them for going through their text messages and responding to them. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to keep my phone on me, but at 12 o'clock, I'm going to check my phone. I'm going to read all my text messages. I'm going to respond to all my text messages. And then I'm putting my phone back down at 12:15, and I'll pick it up again at 6. And when I pick it back up again at 6, I'll respond to all my texts, and then I'm putting it away. And I do like that idea, instead of getting constantly interrupted. And they actually said that it like saves them more time doing it that way too, because not only is your day not constantly getting interrupted, but also, when you go to respond to a text and then you see something else or you get distracted by something else, you're like, oh, I wonder if someone uploaded a new YouTube video, or I wonder whatever. It makes it easier.
Yeah. I feel like I have a lot of people who
That is something I'd like to do more.
call me that I don't want to talk to, and so it's really
On
easy.
your personal phone or your work phone?
My work phone. And so it's really easy for me to ignore my phones because I'm like, if I'm outside of work time, I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
I am done. I'm no longer reachable. And so it's just
yeah.
And so it's easy for me to just be like, ignore texts. I actually feel bad that I ignored.
But I feel like
texts,
for work, once you're off the clock, like just because your salary, you're allowed to text.
Yeah, I'm talking personal text.
Work people who text you back, or
No,
like just
I'm talking
your friends.
Personal text, like on my personal phone. Like my mom texted me on Sunday, or she called me, and I was like, oh crap, I need to call her back. And then like today, she's like, I assume you're doing all right. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I never called you back.
In my opinion, when it comes to the messages, as long as you get back to somebody within 24 hours, they should have nothing to complain about. Because if it's been 24 hours, it's like, I know that you've touched your phone in the past 24 hours, and I know that you didn't respond to whatever it was. But, yeah. I don't know, I just think that the constant stream of text messages, or like, I mean, sometimes even, this is maybe bad to say, but like sometimes even FaceTime calls or stuff like that, because I'll FaceTime with my family members, like my mom or my sister, but sometimes those calls can come in at any point during the day, and it's like, I want to have time that I do talk to these people, but sometimes I feel like I'll answer the call because somebody's calling, even if it's like, this is interrupting something that I would rather be doing. Mm-hmm. You know?
So let's get back to what you're actually talking about.
I only have one more question.
Gotcha.
But this was about, so TradWives. Yeah, so some of these women are...
I seriously still can't believe that you're saying TradWives this entire time.
Some of these traditional wives are making money from showcasing their traditional living, whether that be through Instagram or YouTube. And so then another point that people have said about them is they're not even really traditional because they do have a job. Like a traditional wife is somebody who's foregoing the workplace to be at home with their kids. But these women are creating a workplace at home by making YouTube videos, and having what can for them become anywhere from a part-time to a full-time job in filming this stuff. And then is that really traditional?
Yeah. I feel like something I guess we should have done is really, I guess, define personally what we think a traditional wife is. But barring that, I feel like a traditional wife, can 100% make money. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if we, like how traditional...
So what do you think is a traditional wife then to you? Go ahead, just say it now.
But the thing is, that's the question, right? Like, traditional as of...
What do you think?
Well, I'm saying traditional as of when? You know what I mean? Like, if they're like, oh, traditional wife as of, 1805, or like a traditional wife as of 1905, or as of 2005. Because I'm telling you, like, a traditional...
they've always been taking care of the babies.
Yeah, but a traditional wife in 1805, was probably homesteading and also taking care...
Yeah, they were farming.
Yeah, and so, like...
Or at least gathering some berries.
Like, they were farming. They were taking care of any animals they might have. Maybe, like, I don't know, right? And so, like, that is monetization of their time, because they are farming and they'll sell those goods. And so it's like...
Okay, so then in 2024, what would you say is a traditional wife?
I think people think a traditional wife just means, like, what they imagine is just some lady who just, like, is in these beat up pajamas just with, like, screaming children in the background.
So what do you think, though?
I think a traditional wife is a woman who stays at home and takes care of the house and kids.
And does a traditional wife work, in your opinion?
I think a traditional wife can work. I don't think it, like, you know, it's all just about timing, right? Like, if the kids are at school, because, you know, we have public school nowadays, so if you decide to send your kids to public school and then the stay-at-home mom has free time, it's like, yeah, they can get a job. Like, there's nothing, I don't think there should be anything stopping them from getting a job or stopping them from, like, doing whatever the heck they want during that time. You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, your kids are at school, now you can, you know, get back to doing all that ballerina dancing that you never had time to do, you know, like whatever.
The ballerina farm lady, I mean, she's, like I said, she works. But I think that,
So I don't think traditional wife means you don't work. Like, being at home taking care of the kids, that's work. Like, taking care of the house is work. Like, you can hire a nanny to take care of kids. So obviously taking care of kids is work. You can hire
it can all be outsourced.
You can hire a house cleaner to clean up the house. And so obviously that's work, you know? So it's not like a stay-at-home mom isn't working. Like, they're doing two jobs right there. Like, those are two separate entities that you would hire.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing work, you know? Maybe they're not getting paid for it. But
I'm talking about women who are making money, though. I actually did hear a point made by a man who was talking about traditional women, and he was talking about traditional women versus career women, and he said, to be honest, he goes, traditional women, meaning stay at home and they do not have a financially paying job. He goes, I think that if they're doing their job right, they actually often work harder than career women, because career women get to be off the clock. A traditional woman is never off the clock. They're working 24 hours, 7 days a week. They don't get weekends. They don't get holidays. They don't get...
Unless the kids go to school.
I feel like oftentimes when I guess maybe it's just my idea about traditional women, but you often think about women who have little kids.
Yeah.
Babies.
I feel like...
If you've got a baby, you're never off the clock.
I feel like...
3 a.m., that's you. Saturday morning, that's you.
I feel like I don't know. I mean, I didn't really prep anything for this, so thinking about it more, I feel like I would say a traditional wife is a woman who prioritizes the family above anything else, I guess. So, like, I don't know. I feel like take that for what it's worth, you know?
Yeah. That is an interesting way of talking about it.
Yeah. So, like, but the thing is, I feel like by that definition, a traditional wife could be a working mom, you know? Could be...
See, though, I don't think that I would call that traditional. I would say, I think that it's... I'm not saying that there's no value in it, but I think that that's not a traditional...
So long as they're prioritizing the family, I guess.
I think if you are hiring somebody else to take care of your kids because you're not with them all day because you're working, I don't think that as a woman that's traditional. That's not traditionally what women have done. Yeah. But I noticed there was one YouTuber who I would say she's like a TradWife, but kind of before this term was coined. And I used to watch her channel, and then she actually ended up getting to a point where her husband quit his job in order to help her with the YouTube channel, help her on the filming, editing side of things. And then, so they were both like fully in this boat of her YouTube channel. That's their entire income. And then she ended up deciding to walk away from it. It's the baby monitor. I just pulled it up here because I wanted to make sure everything was all good. They ended up entirely walking away from it because the wife felt like she no longer was living a traditional wife. As the breadwinner in her family, she was having to put so much time into like coming up with ideas and writing videos and filming videos and all this stuff that she felt like she wasn't really able to be there for her kids in the way that she wanted to. Gotcha. And so she quit, and I actually had a lot of respect for her for quitting. And then she's since come back. I think she took about a year off, but now her videos are very, very different. It's just her chatting while she's in the kitchen cooking. And it's not heavily edited. It's just a more minimal editing. And it's more of like her just showing what she's doing in the kitchen, stuff that she would be doing anyways, rather than her kind of picking a topic and doing a whole thought essay on it type of a thing, you know?
Yeah. So I guess traditional, yeah, probably stay-at-home mom. It's a traditional wife.
I think so.
I feel like non-traditional is, I guess, anything but a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. So, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like some people probably saw growing up, the mom making.
Say that again?
I said like some people saw growing up, the mom staying at home, making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch, type of mom. Loading up the minivan, taking the kids to soccer practice, type of mom, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean. Yeah, so I guess that's what I would probably think of as traditional mom. Not to say I think there's anything wrong with non-traditional circumstances and scenarios. Definitely know some. But, yeah, I think it works. But I think tradition is tradition for a reason. Kind of works. Works.
Yeah. It's true.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
So are you for or against tradition TradWives?
I'm for TradWives. I'm for TradWives, and I think that the people who are so heavily critiquing them
just haters
don't understand the point. They either don't understand the point if they are not traditional themselves. It's like they don't get the value in it. Or if they are traditional and they're critiquing that this is like some kind of idealized version of something that's not that ideal. I feel like, well, you're probably just stressed. And you just need to take a deep breath and
there's probably just a lot of people. There's probably just a lot of people who don't like the traditional wives on YouTube because, in my opinion, probably the majority of people don't have a traditional lifestyle, you know?
So that's what I'm saying. The critiques come from liberals and conservatives. Liberals saying you shouldn't be a trad wife because you're supporting the patriarchy, and from conservatives saying you're not a trad wife because you're putting it online and that's a job, or you shouldn't be putting this online because you're making the other stay-at-home moms feel bad. These poor trad wives are like getting crapped on by both ends of the spectrum, I think.
Interesting.
But
yeah.
But I support it.
All I gotta say is, I guess, for the liberal side of the argument, like they let everyone else do, just let people do what they want to do if that makes them happy. If that's,
that is what they always say, huh?
Yeah, if that's...
Why is it hurting you? Why do you care?
Yeah, if that is the mantra, then I would say stick with it. Let people do whatever they want to do, as long as I'm not hurting anyone. And I guess for the conservative side of the argument, step it up.
Seriously.
No, I feel like for the a realistic response to the conservative side of the argument, I would probably say is comparison is the thief of joy, and just be happy where you're at and just let yourself progress at your pace.
Yeah, at a pace that works for you.
Yeah. Huh. All right. I think that's good. I can live with that.
Yeah, all right.
Sounds good. This is your day. Wait, you close it. I got nothing.
Do you know what the topic's going to be next week?
I don't.
Okay, that's fine. Leave a comment if you want to.
What?
Leave a comment if you want to and say what you think. Are you on the conservative or liberal side? Do you hate trad wives because you're conservative, or do you hate trad wives because you're liberal? Let us know in the comments below.
Interesting question.
Bye-bye.